And hello again, this is Louis Raven, entering my 28th year as a professional writer, illustrator, and editor in the comics, science fiction, fantasy fiction, and role-playing game communities. This month, October, and we're starting an event, Booktober, where we'll do reviews every single day of 3 to 10 comics and or books and or zines. I'll explain what a zine is in a little bit. And we're going to do that every day throughout the month. We're not going to do reviews like we normally do on the regular Quoth the Raven weekly program. Instead, we're going to do other things. I'll talk more about that later tonight on tonight's episode. So let's go ahead and get straight into our reviews. And we'll start with Basic Paper Airplane number 13, the cassette tape issue. This is what we call a zine, and what it is a mini magazine done typically by semi-professional parties. It's not done for full professional commercial production and distribution. This particular publisher is What Now Press. It is $5. It is by Joshua James Amberson and Friends. It was zine released this past July, and they give it a 5-star rating. And what it's about is a zine in tribute to the maligned beauty of pop culture's past, the compact cassette tape. There are articles and essays by over 20 writers, musicians, DJs, label owners, publishers, and comic artists who tell stories of how cassette tapes have affected their lives for better or worse. Within the art of the mixtape, the importance of the boombox, the intimacy of the Walkman, tales of recording with cassettes, performing live with cassettes, releasing new cassettes, etc. A lot of nostalgia. They talk about the subversion of the culture, because it was kind of a subversive counterculture with cassettes and different types of music genre and such. The frustration of dealing with cassettes sometimes, and the possibilities. Featuring contributions from Andrew Barton, Ariel Burks, Carly Frisbee Brogan, Aaron Birch, Laura Degling, Tim Devon, buck them up, Aaron Gilbreth, Cynthia Carmina Gomez, Jack Lewis, Cheskay Lindgren, Pat Malley, Jason Martin, Sarah Renberg, Kevin Sapsell, Gina Sarte, Christopher Sutton, Tucker Theodore, and Alexis Wolf, with a cover by Rachel Lee Carmen. And here we have the magazine. As you can see, it's not the perfect cut. It's a little bit edgy on the side there, kind of like that. It's saddle stitched. It's 64 pages. Different things, tracks they listened to while they were doing their articles. Just a lot of really interesting stuff in here. I really enjoyed this thing. I ordered it from, I'm trying to think of Antiquated Futures. The store out of Portland, Oregon. I got it for free, but it is a $5 magazine. Now, the reason I got this and asked for this specifically was because I am a child of the 70s and 80s, and mixtapes were a big thing back in the day. I can remember recording mixtapes off of the radio because you couldn't afford to buy albums, or because you didn't really want the album. You only wanted 1 or 2 songs off the album. So it was easier to just record it off the radio. I can remember different things of the collecting aspect of it, because we didn't just do mixtapes of just radio. We actually made themed mixtapes, and then they talk about that. I mean, I was talking about what it's like to be a band that's only does, they call themselves a cassette band, and what that is a band that doesn't have any actual albums on vinyl or CD. They only had cassettes at the time. This is very commonplace in the I don't want to call it the underground, but a lot of punk bands in the 80s and early 90s were like that. A lot of bands that were just doing gig to gig shows in small clubs, or not really having the means at that time, because CDs were too expensive in mass production for a lot of the smaller bands that were just getting started and just trying to get their first recordings made on a professional grade level. So they would do them on cassettes and sell them at shows and sell them elsewhere where they could get record stores, wherever they could get the places their cassettes placed for sale. And that kind of culture really stuck with me back in the day. And it still have cassette labels, actual record labels that do cassettes even today. As you can see, there's an article here called "Running a Tape Label in 2020," in which they talk about the dynamics of running such a company and what the differences are comparative to a full CD and another type of vinyl, MP3s, all that stuff that's in technology as well. What the benefits of running it are, and what the setbacks as well. So there's a lot of really interesting information in here, and I just was really glad I got this. So I gave it a 5-star. Our next book is called Misnomer, and this is in issue 1. This is a flip book version. This is the first side, and it's called A Crow's Funeral, or A Crow Funeral. And in this particular story, we see the anthropomorphic version of a human funeral with crows instead of humans after one is killed by a cat. It's got everyone dressed up in suits and dresses, and the wife has the veil and all this stuff. There are speakers like there would be at a human funeral who say a few words about the departed, and there's even a dinner afterwards. In this case, they go eat roadkill off the street. They go to town on. But there's a grieving widow with the kids. There's a drunk crow demanding vengeance on the cat. It's just really an interesting take on it. It's a well thought out story, and being a Raven and Crow guy myself, this really caught my eye when I was online shopping. And I believe I bought this at Radiator Comics, I believe is where I got it. Yes. I don't know why I did this. This isn't the right. Okay, hold on a second. Let me see if I can find the right review. Nope, it's not here. That's weird. Okay. All right. My bad. I don't know why the first page of Misnomer is not here. Okay. Anyway, the book is $8, or at least that's what it cost when I got it at Radiator Comics. There's not an actual price point printed on the book. Again, it is a flip book. I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. But this is the first side of it. I also gave this one a 5-star rating. There we go. This is some of the interior pages of this part of the book. And this is where we're at the funeral, and there's the dead crow, and they got the preacher speaking, and they got a little like blue jay who's supposed to be his cousin, who's like, thank you for letting me speak anyway, even though I'm not really a crow, that thing. There's the wife whining about who's going to regurgitate for the chicks when I have to leave the nest. There's the drunk crow complaining about wanting vengeance on the cat. It's all there. It's really quite interesting stuff. Here's some more of that particular story. There's the roadkill that's on the bottom page over here. And they're talking and getting. He goes, oh, I was hoping for squirrel, and he sees a coin in the street. One of the crows that's visiting gets in the street, and he's like, like enamored with the coin in the street, and he gets hit by a car and gets killed. So there's actually two of them that get killed in the storyline. And thus, they have another one, another gathering of crows for a funeral for that one as well. That's a really cool thing. And then you got the flip side of the book, which has a grasshopper on a nail, and that has to do with entomology. And this is the flip story. It's called The Malaise Trap. And this is just amazing. This is a masterpiece of storytelling. I'm surprised this did not, to my knowledge, this did not get nominated for an Eisner Award for that story. It should have the year it came out. These stories actually came out in, let's see, originally they came out in 2010, this particular story, and the other one came out in 2009. But this is reprints from 2014. The flip story here, The Malaise Trap, is about a collector who collects many different things. Comics, bottle caps, stamps, baseball cards, etc. And it's about how he became obsessed and depressed by the hobby of collecting. At one point, he decided that none of this was what he wants in his life anymore, and he sells it all. And collectors from all over, his friends, his competitors, strangers from everywhere, come out to his place and clean him out. And he describes how it feels like, what it feels like as they break down his collections and take it all away and split it among themselves, as though they're stripping his very existence away, like nothing matters, And he comments about how maybe this is part of why many collectors never sell any of their stuff off and leave it for their families to disperse after they're dead. It's very heady stuff, in my opinion, for such a short story, because this is only like a 10 or 12 page story. But the collectors have left one item behind, and that's the grasshopper displayed in the box, an entomologist display. And suddenly he realizes that this is something he can still partake in and enjoy. That capturing the bugs and then taking the time to properly care for them and display them is a worthy hobby where he isn't competing with others over who has what, isn't fighting monetarily to bid over different items with other. It's just him and the hobby. And this invigorates him as a person and reminds him of what a true hobby is meant for. The stark, well-reasoned observations of what collecting hobbies like comic collecting, stamp collecting, mixtape collecting, any of these type of things, what these hobbies can do to us as people, and the sense of horror at the sense of malaise or disinterest in the things that we once held dear, once held as defining elements of who we are ourselves, is very thought-provoking and heartbreaking at the same time. And it's an Eisner-worthy story, as I said, and unfortunately, it didn't see the nomination. let's take a quick look at his artwork. And he talks about, how he started out collecting. He started losing his teeth, like we all do in our youth, and he starts collecting other people's teeth, basically. And he was like competing to pay the kids that were losing their teeth from the tooth fairy. And it basically, his teacher basically thought there was something weird with him for doing this, and told his parents on him. And so he ended up giving up that particular hobby, and they put him into something more realistic, which was baseball cards. They thought that base cards would get him to be normal, and it would quell the normal collections. And it was exactly the opposite for him. He went into comics. He went into stamps. He went into all this other stuff. He talks about how collectors refer to collecting as their mistress. It's never been a mistress to me, for nothing else is nearly as important. I couldn't even guess at how many collections I've had, let alone what they all were. Try asking Don Juan how many women he's had. In the sense, I was collecting collections. The concept of too much never really entered my mind. I only knew that I was always dissatisfied with the amount I already had. And this is the kind of mentality and fear that can generate when you get into this type of you're not just a collector, you almost get to the hoarding stage. And you can't have everything because you can't afford it all, number one. Number two, depending on what you're collecting, a lot of things are one of a kind. You can't get them if someone else has it. So you have this sense of dissatisfaction as a collector. And this is why he basically gives it up and says, I'm just selling it all off, because he never gets married, never has any, his girlfriends leave him because of the collecting fetish and everything. So he just kind of is there. He's like, all I got is this stuff, and I keep moving from a bigger place to a bigger place to a bigger place just to make room for all this stuff. What's the point? And that's when he decides to sell it all off. And he's talking about his different collections, and he's like, every place is just a place for more shelf space. It's all I need. It's more shelf space, more space, more space. And ultimately, he puts the stuff on for sale. Mm-hmm. I had collectors, bargain hunters, and auctioneers swarming my condo like locusts. Nothing was off limits. This used to be a literal nightmare scenario, and I understood why most collections are sold posthumously. Being eviscerated as I was, I should have been in agony, but I just felt numb. My apartment was a carcass pick cleaning, save the few unappetizing scraps. Being reduced to memorabilia that nobody wanted. It was a clear portrait of a life not lived. Very heady stuff. What was left was a haphazard collection of me, and it was nothing more personal than a toe tag. And then he finds the one display of the grasshopper, and he relates to that grasshopper, and he thinks about entomology, and he thinks about the fact that there's over 100,000 different species in North America alone. You can never even worry about getting a complete set. You never have to worry about, just get what you want and have what you have and enjoy just the idea of having the hobby of collecting to collect. And ultimately, that saves his life. Excellent story. Our next book. is PECULIA. It's trade paperback for Fantagraphics for $12.95. The writer-artist is the late Richard Sala, who passed away, unfortunately, earlier this year in May. The genre is horror gothic comedy. The ISBN number is 978-1-56097-495-8. It was first released in 2002. And what it's about is PECULIA is the ex-girlfriend of Obscurus. She goes on nightly walks and has crazy adventures. Justine is Obscurus's assistant who keeps causing trouble for PECULIA. And whenever PECULIA gets in over her head, her butler Ambrose magically appears and saves the day. They're very funny stories. Probably could have been all ages material, but Sala puts in different things of nudity and different things that are definitely mature readers. So it is a mature reader's book. I'd say 16 and up. It collects the stories from Evil Eye, number 1 through 9, originally published from 1998 to 2002, and I gave it 4 stars. And there's some of the original, or not the originals, but scans of some of the interior artwork. It's a very nice, sort of a Addams Family-esque sort of Charles Addams thing, but it's also his own. Whoops. Okay, I thought there was more art than that one. There wasn't. So let's go ahead and take a quick look here. She's walking through the woods at night, stops in an inn. A closer look there. It's all black and white interiors. But he does a lot of really nice brush work, a lot of reverse imagery, like you see with the dark woods here. It's mostly almost like a woodcut look instead, with the use of blacks. Of course, this is a little bit, weird, 3 women in a bathtub thing, but, she sneaks out of the middle somehow, between the 2 of them. I don't know how, but she sneaks out in the bed and gets downstairs and finds out that all the people that were eating at the table below are now corpses. Quite weird stuff going on. He throws death, which was all what was killing them all, down a well, and then Obscurus swoops up and takes her back to now she's going to go shopping and finds weird places to shop and runs into some witches who want to cook her, basically. A few other things as well. But it's an interesting little story. Stories, I should say. I enjoy them okay. Like I said, if it didn't have some of the more adult content in there, it'd be a perfect kids book. I wish that Sala had done it a little more PG, but oh well. It is what it is. Our last book for the day is Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive, from Image Comics, trade paperback, 1999. The writer is Jim Rugg with artist Brian Maruca. The genre is girl superhero action. ISBN 978-1-5343-1350-7. This was released a year ago, October 2019. And this is Image's collection of all of the Street Angel stories. that were published to that date. The Adventures of Jessie, who is Street Angel, a homeless skater girl who just so happens to be a ninja who fights evil while still trying to attend school. Well, that concept doesn't quite make sense to me. A homeless kid sleeping out on the street yet going to school equals child protective services. Surely, but that's just my thinking. But if we ignore some of the real world conceits of that nature, it works okay. There's lots of fun stories. She saves a dog beaten by bullies. She purposely loses a fight, but then has to go to the school dance with the guy she let defeat her, and they can't stand one another. Cute little stories like that. I do wish Rugg would make a major nemesis out of the school counselor or the child protection agencies trying to hunt her down and get her off the streets at some point, because that's just the sort of thing that I think would happen, and I think would make for some amusing Keystone Cops chases and fights that might be fun to see. But they do a nice job on the book. It's recommended for ages 13 and up, and it is 4 stars. And this is her, coming in late to school, second period, and there's a sign on her locker, and her friend asks, "Why are you late today?" "Oh, I was stuck in another dimension. Space wizards were tripping." "What do you plan on doing?" "About the fight, about the dance." What fight? And then who would want to fight you? And there's a, basically a fight in the yard, 3:30, and her friend is asking, "Well, what about the dance?" "Well, I don't dance, so it doesn't matter," type thing. And after gym class, the guy who actually threatened her friend's like, "Are you crazy?" "Well, someone's got to knock the stink off." Or, "Have you ever seen her fight? Have you ever seen her take a bath?" Just sort of things that you would expect from junior high kids. They're at lunch, and she's eating super fast, and he walks up behind her and shoves her face in the food. And they're ready to get into the fight between the two of them at that point, but they wait until after school and actually have the fight. Artwork is really fun to look at. And this is just one of the stories. They have other stories as well. So that's pretty much our review for today. I want to thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, we'll be back this evening with the regular Quoth the Raven episode for the week. And then tomorrow, I don't know exactly what time I'll air day 2 of Booktober because my air conditioning is out, and they're supposed to be coming in the morning to fix it. So if they're, making a lot of racket, I can't do the show until they're taken care of. So as soon as that's done, then I'll schedule it and get it on the air for you guys. Okay. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hold on a second. My computer is being silly. What's going on here? I don't know what's going on. There we go. Somebody just hit me. Oh, okay. Someone just sent me a quick link in Facebook, but that's okay. See you later tonight.